Hey everyone, welcome back to English Podcast for Listening and Speaking. It's Alec here at the mic.
And hey guys, it's Abby. Today we're talking about something painfully familiar. Haha, asking for help and hearing no.
You know that moment, right? You need a tiny favor, ask politely, and you just get cold silence or excuses.
Maybe they say, sorry, I'm slammed, or they give that tight little smile that basically means, absolutely not today.
Then you walk away replaying the whole thing thinking, was it something I said? Did I sound annoying?
You start shrinking inside, feeling a little powerless, like you're begging instead of simply asking another human being.
That sting of rejection feels real, even if it's just a small favor. Your chest tightens, your mood sinks.
And after enough of those moments, you quietly decide, forget it, I'll just do everything by myself next time.
Which sounds strong, but honestly, it's kind of exhausting. Nobody wins when you're secretly suffering alone with every task.
So today's episode is called The 5 Magic Phrases That Get Anyone to Help You. And yes, they're powerful.
We're not talking about manipulation or weird Jedi mind tricks. We're talking about respectful, smart communication based on real psychology.
Things like empathy, reciprocity, and that deep human desire to feel useful, kind, and like a genuinely good person.
If you understand those emotional buttons, you can ask in a way that feels good, not needy or pushy.
And seriously, who doesn't want that? Imagine asking your boss, your coworker, or your friend and actually hearing, sure, no problem.
Before we jump in, quick hello to anyone new here. You're listening to English Podcast for Listening and Speaking.
Our job here is to help you improve your English, your confidence, and your real-life communication skills through natural conversations.
We don't just teach words. We teach how to sound more persuasive, more polite, and honestly, more powerful in English.
And if that sounds useful, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and share this episode with one friend right now.
Seriously, that simple click helps YouTube recommend this podcast to more learners who struggle with the same emotional stuff.
Plus, it tells us, hey, this topic helps, make more like this. So your like is literally feedback for the channel.
Let's start with a question. When you ask for help in English, how do you usually feel inside?
Do you feel nervous, embarrassed, guilty, worried they'll think you're lazy, or maybe afraid of annoying them?
Or maybe you feel angry like, why is it so hard for people to help with something so simple?
I want you to think of one specific moment. Maybe a coworker ignored your request, or a stranger refused directions.
Picture it clearly for a second. The words you used, their face, the silence, the awkward ending of that conversation.
And here's the big question. Do you think the problem was what you asked, or how you asked?
Most people automatically blame themselves. My English was terrible, or I sounded rude, or my request was too big.
But often, the real problem is structure. You didn't frame the request in a way their brain likes hearing.
Human brains are lazy and emotional. They look for small effort, clear reasons, and the chance to feel like heroes.
When you ask in the wrong way, it can sound heavy, demanding, or risky, even if you didn't mean that.
But when you ask in the right way, people feel safe, respected, and weirdly proud to say yes to you.
In this episode, we'll walk through 5 simple phrases that tap into that psychology without sounding fake or manipulative.
By the end, you'll have more than just 5 lines to memorize. You'll have a new style of asking.
A style that respects you and respects them, and actually increases the chance they'll gladly help you out.
Along the way, we'll highlight some powerful vocabulary for persuasion, like empathy, obligation, reciprocity, and even the word compliance.
And we'll play with grammar in a spoken way. Opinion starters, modal verbs, even those imaginative if sentences we all secretly love.
Not as boring formulas, but as real sentences like, if you asked like this, you'd get more yeses.
I love that, because grammar really feels different when it's connected to getting actual help in real life.
So let me confess something. I used to hate asking for help. It always felt like losing control or independence.
Same here. I used to think, if I ask, they'll think I'm weak or unprofessional, so I overloaded myself constantly.
The funny thing is, people around me probably thought, Alec never needs anything, he's fine, while I was quietly drowning.
Haha, yeah, and meanwhile, I was the opposite sometimes, asking too directly and wondering why people resisted my energy.
So if you're listening and thinking I'm terrible at asking, trust me, you're not alone. We've both been there.
The cool part is, once you change a few sentences, the whole energy of the request changes dramatically.
You move from sounding heavy and demanding to sounding light, specific, and really easy to say yes to.
And you also feel different inside. You feel less desperate and more like a confident communicator making a reasonable request.
Let's talk directly to you now. When was the last time you needed help and decided not to ask?
Maybe you carried something heavy by yourself, stayed late to finish a report, or tried to fix everything alone.
Imagine that moment again. But this time, you know exactly which phrase to use to start the conversation.
How different would your evening have looked if someone had stepped in and said, "Sure, I've got you"?
That's the future we're building in this episode, especially for you if English isn't your first language.
Because honestly, asking for help is hard enough in your own language. Doing it in English is next level vulnerable.
But it's also a huge opportunity. Every time you ask well, you practice vocabulary, grammar, and emotional courage at the same time.
So here's what we're going to do. We'll go phrase by phrase, with stories, examples, and real-life situations.
We'll show you when to use each one, how it sounds, and what kind of emotion it creates in the listener.
And we want you to listen actively. Think, where could I use this at work, school, or with friends?
Also, please share your answers with us in the comments. We really do read them, and they inspire future episodes.
So, are you ready to turn awkward, rejected requests into respectful, effective conversations where people actually want to help you?
Let's dive into magic phrase number 1, which already changes how people feel before they even hear your request.
Okay, magic phrase number 1 sounds super simple, but it already changes the whole mood of the conversation.
The phrase is, "I have a small favor to ask," and honestly, those 6 little words are ridiculously powerful.
When you start like that, you're softening the emotional impact before the person even hears your actual request.
Exactly. You're framing it as something light, something manageable, not a giant, heavy responsibility dumping onto their shoulders.
Imagine the opposite. You rush in and say, "Can you help me with something?" It sounds vague and dangerous.
Their brain instantly starts calculating cost, time, energy, stress. They think, this could be huge and annoying.
But when you say, "I have a small favor to ask," you lower the stakes. It feels safer immediately.
In psychology, people sometimes compare this to putting your foot in the door before it closes completely.
Right. The idea is, if someone accepts a tiny request, their brain feels more open to helping again.
But even before that, the word small calms their nervous system. It whispers, "Relax, this won't ruin your day."
Let's try a work example. Picture your coworker, already surrounded by emails and spreadsheets, clearly overwhelmed and stressed out.
If you walk up and say, "Can you help with the quarterly report?" their brain screams, "Nope, absolutely not. Too much."
But if you approach gently and say, "Hey, I have a small favor to ask," the reaction feels very different.
Their inner voice becomes curious instead of defensive. Small favor? Okay, I can probably hear this without dying.
Then you follow with something very specific and small, like, "Could you just look at this one slide?"
Notice the pattern. First, you shrink the favor emotionally. Then you shrink it practically by choosing something focused.
This phrase also respects their time. You're signaling, "I know you're busy. I'm not here to steal your whole afternoon."
Let's play out a mini role play. I'll be the stressed coworker, and you ask me in 2 different ways.
All right, version 1, the heavy version. "Alec, can you help me with the quarterly report?"
My brain goes, quarterly report equals big project equals hours. No thank you. Please leave my desk immediately.
Version 2, softer. "Hey, Alec, I have a small favor to ask. Could you check this one slide for me?"
Now my brain thinks, 1 slide? That's quick. I can do that. I'll look helpful without losing my evening.
Same human, same report, different framing. One sounds like a burden, the other sounds like a tiny, doable favor.
That word burden is useful here. Burden means something feels heavy, like carrying extra weight on your shoulders.
When your request feels like a burden, people resist. When it feels light, they naturally lean toward helping you.
Let's also try a daily life example. You're lost in a new city and need directions to the train station.
If you say, "How do I get to the train station?" it's not terrible, but it's a bit abrupt.
Now try, "Excuse me, I have a small favor to ask. Could you point me toward the train station?"
That feels softer, more human. You sound polite, modest, and aware that they don't owe you anything.
It also makes the action sound tiny. They don't imagine walking you there, just pointing or giving a brief explanation.
So, vocabulary time. When we say lower the stakes, we mean making the situation feel less risky or dramatic.
And second pair of eyes is a great phrase. It means another person checking something quickly for mistakes or clarity.
You could say, I have a small favor to ask. Could you be a second pair of eyes on this email?
Notice how that sounds lighter than, can you correct all my English? Which feels bigger, heavier, more like unpaid work.
I'd argue this phrase is especially useful for listeners who feel shy or guilty when asking for help.
Yeah, because it coaches your mouth to present the request as tiny. You're not begging, you're inviting a small kindness.
Let's talk grammar in a natural way for a second. This phrase is a really good opinion starter opportunity.
For example, you might say, I'd say this phrase makes people relax before they even hear your request.
Or, from my perspective, you should use this line whenever the other person already looks busy or stressed.
See those patterns? I'd say, from my perspective, and you should, are all tools for giving gentle advice.
And they're perfect when you want to sound confident but not bossy, especially in workplace, English, or academic situations.
Let me throw a question to our listeners. Would you feel more comfortable helping if someone said, small favor first?
Imagine two strangers asking for help in English. Which one feels more approachable to you, emotionally speaking, and why?
Think about that, and tell us in the comments. Your answer might help someone else see this differently too.
There's another interesting psychological effect here. When you call it a small favor, people want to protect that identity.
Yeah, if it truly is small, they feel like refusing would be almost too harsh for something so tiny.
But important warning here, don't lie. If you say small favor, keep it genuinely small, especially at the beginning.
Exactly. If you say small favor and then ask for 3 hours of unpaid work, you damage trust fast.
Start small, build trust, then maybe later you can ask for slightly bigger things because the relationship already feels solid.
Let's imagine an English learner, maybe you listening right now, who needs feedback on their presentation slides.
You could write an email like, Hi, I have a small favor to ask. Could you check my introduction slide?
That sounds respectful and realistic. You're not asking them to fix your whole presentation, just one important part.
And honestly, once someone starts helping, they sometimes offer more help by themselves because they feel engaged and supportive.
That's the foot in the door effect in action. People like to act consistently with the helpful person they believe they are.
If they helped once, their brain says, I'm a helpful colleague, and they're more likely to help again later.
So this tiny phrase actually connects to bigger psychological principles. Low stakes, consistency, and making kindness feel easy.
Let's give our listeners a little challenge. Think of one situation this week where you might need someone's help.
Maybe asking a teacher, a coworker, a classmate, or even a neighbor. Picture their face and the situation clearly.
Now imagine starting with, I have a small favor to ask, instead of your usual opening line. How does that feel?
If you're brave, write your full sentence in the comments, like, I have a small favor to ask. Could you?
That way, you practice writing the phrase, and other learners can see real-life examples and feel inspired.
All right, we've warmed up with phrase 1. Ready to move into a word that changes people's minds almost automatically?
Oh yes, this next one is wild, because it's just one word, but it unlocks our brain like a secret code.
All right, magic phrase number 2 sounds almost too simple, but honestly, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, because this one is literally one word, and that word quietly changes how people react.
The word is because. Tiny, common, innocent, but it has surprisingly strong psychological power behind it.
There's this famous experiment from Harvard at a Xerox machine in a busy university library.
Researchers tried to cut in line, and they tested 3 different ways of asking to go first.
First version was simple. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?
With that basic request, around 60% of people said yes and kindly let them cut.
Not bad, right? Now version 2 added a real reason. Because I'm in a rush today.
Same situation, same number of pages, but now about 94% of people said yes.
That makes sense. We all feel empathy when someone's clearly in trouble or short on time.
Here's where it gets wild. Version 3 used a reason that was basically meaningless and obvious.
They said, May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make some copies?
Which is hilarious, because of course you're making copies. That's literally what the machine does.
And yet, about 93% of people still said yes, almost the same as the real reason.
So, what does that tell us? Our brains aren't always analyzing the logic. They're reacting to structure.
Exactly. The word because acts like a little signal that says, hey, a reason is coming.
Once our brains hear that signal, we relax slightly and become more willing to cooperate and help.
It doesn't mean any stupid reason will always work, but it shows how powerful structure can be.
When you say because, you show you've thought about their time and you're not demanding blindly.
Let's bring this into everyday English. Imagine you say, can you take out the trash at home?
That sounds like an order, even if you personally don't mean it in a harsh way.
Now listen to this version. Could you take out the trash because the truck comes really early tomorrow?
Suddenly, the request feels more reasonable. There's context. You're not just bossing them around for fun.
You're actually inviting them into the problem. You're saying, here's why this matters today, not randomly.
Same with work. Can you send me that file? Feels flat and maybe slightly pushy or impatient.
Try, could you send me that file because I need it for the client presentation this afternoon?
See how the energy changes? You sound organized, respectful, and aware that they also have responsibilities.
It also helps them prioritize. They understand the urgency or importance, not just the bare request by itself.
Vocabulary moment here. When more people agree with a request, psychologists sometimes call that increased compliance.
Compliance is just a fancy word for people saying yes and doing what you ask them to do.
Another useful word is justification. A justification is the reason, the because, behind your request.
And honestly, most of us feel more respected when someone gives us a justification instead of a naked command.
Here's a quick opinion starter for you. From my perspective, giving a reason almost always sounds more polite.
Or, I'd argue that one clear because can be more persuasive than 5 extra sentences without a reason.
You can also use modal verbs like this. You might get more yeses if you explain why you need it.
Or, people could feel more comfortable helping you when they hear how their action actually matters.
Let's talk directly to you listening. Do you usually give a reason when you ask for help?
Or do you just make the request quickly and hope people magically understand why it's important to you?
Think about your own language in English or your first language. Which style do you use more often?
If you want, write a sentence in the comments using because. Something real from your life, not textbook style.
For example, could you speak a little slower because I really want to understand everything you're saying?
That sounds so different from speak slower, please. One feels demanding, the other feels honest and respectful.
There's also a little emotional magic here. When you share the reason, you share a small piece of vulnerability.
Exactly. You're saying, here's what I'm struggling with, or here's the pressure I'm under right now.
That invites empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel or imagine someone else's feelings or situation.
When people feel empathy, they're naturally more willing to support you, especially if the request feels realistic.
Let's try another quick scenario. You're in a class and need someone to switch seats with you.
If you say, can we switch seats? It sounds a bit sudden and maybe slightly rude or confusing.
But if you say, could we switch seats because I can't see the board from here very well?
Now they see the picture. You're not being difficult. You're just trying to participate and learn properly.
Here's a second conditional example hiding inside this topic. If you used because more, you'd probably hear more yeses.
And another one. If people understood your reasons clearly, they'd feel less annoyed and more cooperative with you.
Notice how those sentences imagine a different version of reality to show what might change with one small word.
Another little grammar trick. You can soften requests with phrases like, would you mind, plus your because explanation.
For instance, would you mind checking this email because I'm worried my tone sounds a bit too direct?
That sentence includes worry, respect, and a clear reason. It almost invites the other person to be your ally.
Ally is a good word here. An ally is someone on your side, helping you reach a goal.
So, every time you add because, you're giving that person a chance to become your ally, not your obstacle.
Let's challenge our listeners again. Think of one request you need to make this week, big or small.
Maybe you need your boss to clarify something, or your roommate to clean up, or a friend to listen.
Now mentally add a because to that request. How does the sentence change in your head and feelings?
If you want bonus practice, share your new sentence in the comments. You might inspire another shy learner listening.
All right. We've talked about making people say yes by giving reasons. Next, we're going to do something surprising.
Yeah, our third phrase actually gives people permission to say no, and somehow that makes them say yes more.
It sounds backwards, but psychologically, it's brilliant. Removing pressure often makes people feel freer and more generous.
So stay with us, because phrase number 3 might become your new favorite line when you're scared to ask.
Okay, magic phrase number 3 sounds almost polite to a fault, but it's secretly incredibly powerful.
This one goes like, if you can't, or if it's not a good time, I completely understand.
On the surface, it feels like you're giving people an easy escape, a free ticket to refuse.
But emotionally, you're doing something very clever. You're removing pressure, and pressure is what makes people resist.
When you ask for help, there's always invisible social pressure. They worry they'll look selfish if they say no.
That trapped feeling makes people defensive. When someone feels cornered, their first instinct is usually to push back or escape.
Now imagine you ask and immediately give them a gentle exit. You say, if you can't, I understand.
Suddenly, they feel free. And here's the funny twist. When people feel free, they're actually more likely to choose yes.
You're saying, your time and energy matter to me. I won't hate you if you can't do this.
That respect makes them feel seen as a human, not just a tool. Empathy always lowers emotional resistance.
Let's try a work example. You need your manager to review your proposal, but you know they're already overloaded.
You could say, I need you to review this proposal, which sounds like another heavy obligation landing on their desk.
Or you say, I was hoping you could review this proposal before Friday, but if you can't, I completely understand.
That second version acknowledges reality. You see their busy schedule, and you're not pretending they exist only for you.
Ironically, because you gave them a real choice, they might think, actually, I'll try to help. This feels respectful.
Let's bring in a learner voice. Imagine Mia, one of our listeners, who hates asking her boss for help.
Mia usually waits until she's desperate, then blurts out something like, you have to check this today. It's urgent.
That sounds stressful even for me. Haha. So let's invite Mia in and gently rewrite her request together.
Honestly, when I ask my boss, I sound intense because I'm stressed and then he looks annoyed.
Mia, thanks for sharing that. What would you usually say if you needed feedback before an important deadline?
I'd probably say, can you check this now? I really need it. It's important for the client.
I feel that tension already. Let's soften it with our phrase. Try starting with, I was hoping you could.
Okay, maybe. I was hoping you could check this presentation for me before tomorrow's client meeting.
Nice start. Now add the magic release. If you can't, or if it's not a good time, I completely understand.
So the full version would be, I was hoping you could check this presentation, but if you can't, I completely understand.
How does that feel in your body compared to the first version, the intense one? Lighter, heavier, calmer, what?
Honestly, lighter. I feel less like I'm attacking him, more like I'm inviting him to help if possible.
And your boss might feel more respected. If he's overloaded, he knows you won't explode emotionally if he declines.
But here's the delicious paradox. Because you're not pressuring him, he might think, she's reasonable, I'll make time.
Listeners, notice a few vocabulary words hiding here. Pressure, defensive, cornered, voluntary, obligation. They all describe emotional dynamics.
When something feels voluntary, it feels like a free choice. When it feels like an obligation, people get tense and resistant.
Here's a second conditional that fits perfectly. If people feel trapped, they'll usually look for ways to escape your request.
And another one, if they feel free to say no, they'll often surprise you and say yes instead.
That's the backwards magic. You get more help by making it emotionally safe for them not to help.
Let's try a friend example. You need help moving some boxes on Saturday morning, but you know weekends are precious.
You could say, you have to help me move on Saturday, which sounds bossy and slightly entitled, to be honest.
Or, I was wondering if you could help me move a few boxes Saturday morning. Already softer but not complete.
Now add, I know weekends are busy, so if you already have plans, I completely understand.
Suddenly, you sound like a considerate friend, not a demanding taskmaster. You respect their personal time and energy.
Vocabulary check again. Guilt-free exit is a nice phrase here. It means they can refuse without feeling like a villain.
When you offer a guilt-free exit, you're saying, "Your boundaries are welcome here. I won't punish you emotionally."
Let's talk to you listening right now. Would you trust someone more if they gave you that kind of freedom?
Imagine two people asking for help. One makes you feel trapped. The other says they'd understand if you can't.
Which person would you be more willing to help, honestly? The one creating pressure or the one creating safety?
If you feel brave, tell us in the comments which version you'd say yes to and why. We're curious.
There's a comparative structure hiding here too. This phrase makes your request sound less aggressive and more collaborative.
And it makes you seem more mature, more emotionally intelligent, more aware of other people's limits and realities.
You might think, but Alec, what if they actually say no? Fair question, totally normal fear.
Yeah, it's scary. But if they say no, at least you protected the relationship and your self-respect.
And if people repeatedly say no, even when you're polite and respectful, that also gives you useful information.
Exactly. You learn who your real allies are and who just enjoys taking and rarely giving back.
Let's add one more workplace example. You need IT to fix something fast, but they're always overloaded and grumpy.
You could say, "You need to fix my laptop now," which will probably get an eye roll and a delay.
Or you say, "I understand you're really busy today, but I was hoping you could help me with this."
You can even add, "If today is impossible, I completely understand. Maybe you could suggest another time?"
That version shows empathy for their workload and still clearly communicates your need. It's softer, but still direct.
So here's your mini challenge. Think of one request you've been avoiding because you're scared of rejection.
Rewrite it in your head using this structure. I was hoping you could, but if you can't, I understand.
If you want to practice, write your new version in the comments. You might encourage someone who feels the same.
In the next section, we'll look at two phrases that use compliments, empathy, and even rules to get support.
These next phrases tap into identity and respect. They make people actually enjoy saying yes to you.
Now we've reached magic phrases 4 and 5, and these two work beautifully together like a little combo.
Yeah, these ones are like the charm and respect duo. One boosts their ego, the other honors their reality.
Magic phrase 4 is, "I thought of you because you're so good at," and it hits people right in the heart.
This phrase taps into two huge drivers. We help people we like, and we act like the person we believe we are.
If someone sees themselves as creative or reliable, they feel a secret pull to behave creatively and reliably again.
And honestly, we all love feeling seen. A real, specific compliment feels like emotional chocolate for the brain.
The key word here is specific. "You're awesome" is sweet, but "you're great at organizing events" feels more powerful.
Let's imagine you're planning a team off-site, and you're completely overwhelmed by venues, food, and tiny annoying details.
You could say, "Can you help me plan this event?" which sounds vague and maybe slightly exhausting for the listener.
Or you could say, "I thought of you because you're so good at finding cool places and planning fun details."
Then you follow with, "Would you have 15 minutes to help me brainstorm some ideas for this offsite?"
That second version feels flattering. You're not just asking for labor, you're recognizing their talent and inviting their magic.
Notice the vocabulary. Brainstorm, offsite, details, talent. You're talking to them like a valuable expert, not a free assistant.
Our brains love consistency. If I see myself as the creative one, I want to keep acting like the creative one.
So if you say, "You're great at staying calm under pressure," part of me really wants to live up to that.
Let's try a negotiation example. You're nervous about a client call and want advice from the calm expert on your team.
You could say, "Help me with this client, I'm freaking out," which is honest but a little chaotic and heavy.
Instead, try, "I thought of you because you're so good at staying calm and finding win-win solutions in tough calls."
Then add, "Would you be open to listening to my plan and giving me a quick gut check?"
That sounds respectful, admiring, and precise. You're not dumping the whole problem, just asking for a targeted perspective.
Let's highlight a few persuasive vocabulary terms here. Empathy, consistency, win-win, perspective. These words all carry influence energy.
Empathy appears when you truly see someone's strengths and struggles. Consistency appears when their actions match their self-image.
Win-win describes a situation where both sides gain something, which is exactly what phrase 4 often creates.
You get help, and they get the pleasure of being seen as skilled, generous, and important in that situation.
From my perspective, you should always keep your compliment honest. Fake praise feels slimy and kills trust quickly.
I'd argue that specific, true compliments can turn a boring favor into a chance for someone to shine proudly.
Okay, let's move to magic phrase 5. I understand that, but I was hoping you could help me.
This one is amazing when you're dealing with rules, policies, or people who guard the system, like gatekeepers.
Gatekeeper is a useful word. It means someone who controls access to something, like information, approvals, or resources.
Phrase 5 has two parts. First, you say, I understand that, and you show empathy for their rule or limitation.
Then you pivot to, but I was hoping you could help me, which invites them to become your ally, not enemy.
Imagine you're at a hotel and your room isn't ready, but you have a big meeting to prepare for.
Barking, my room should be ready now. Will probably get you a tight smile and the slowest help possible.
Instead, try, I understand that check-in is normally later and the hotel is busy today. That's part 1, empathy.
Then add, but I was hoping you could help me. I have an important presentation soon and really need a quiet space.
Now the staff member is not just defending rules. They're suddenly offered the role of hero in your story.
Maybe they find another room, or a business lounge, or at least move you higher on the cleaning list.
Another example, you notice a strange fee on your bill, and customer service tells you there's a 30-day review policy.
You might say, I understand that the policy needs 30 days, and I respect that process. That's alignment, not argument.
Then, but I was hoping you could help me, because this charge puts my account in a really tight spot.
You're combining empathy with vulnerability. That's a powerful mix. You're not demanding, you're inviting compassion and problem solving.
Vocabulary check. Gatekeeper. Policy, reframe, ally. Reframe means changing the way you look at a situation or problem.
In phrase 5, you reframe the gatekeeper from obstacle to ally. You're saying, let's stand on the same side.
Here's a second conditional for you. If you started with, I understand, you'd immediately reduce the tension in most conversations.
And another. If you treat rules as real but flexible at the edges, you'll often discover hidden options and shortcuts.
There's also a comparative feeling here. This phrase sounds more respectful and less aggressive than just arguing about what's unfair.
It's also more effective long-term, because you're building relationships instead of burning bridges with every frustrated conversation.
Let's do a quick mini scenario together. You're a student, and your deadline just passed because of a genuine emergency situation.
Saying, you have to extend my deadline, it's not fair, will probably make your teacher shut down immediately.
Instead, I understand the deadline was important for everyone, and I know you need to be fair.
Then, but I was hoping you could help me. I had a family emergency, and I'm really struggling to catch up.
That doesn't guarantee a yes, but it gives you a much better chance and protects the relationship with your teacher.
Let's throw a question to our listeners now. Which phrase feels more natural to you personally, 4 or 5?
Are you more comfortable with the compliment style? I thought of you because, or the empathy style. I understand that.
Tell us in the comments, and if you can, write your own example sentence using your favorite phrase.
From my perspective, these two phrases are perfect for adult life, especially when you need help from busy, powerful people.
And when you combine them specific compliments plus real empathy, you suddenly sound more persuasive, mature, and emotionally intelligent.
In our final section, we'll quickly recap all 5 phrases and give you some lines worth sharing with friends.
We'll also challenge you to choose one phrase to practice this week. Not someday, but in a real conversation.
Because the magic doesn't come from listening to us, it comes from courageously using these phrases in your own life.
We've now reached the home stretch, and it's time to connect all 5 magic phrases into one picture.
Yeah, let's take everything we've shared and turn it into something listeners can actually carry into daily conversations.
First, remember where we started. That painful moment when you ask for help and just feel rejected and powerless.
That awkward, sorry, I'm slammed. Or even worse, the cold silence that makes you replay every word you said.
We said maybe the problem isn't your personality or your value, but the structure of the request itself.
And today we've built a new structure with 5 phrases that respect people's minds, hearts, and limited energy.
Let's walk through them in a natural way, not like a boring list, more like a story of transformation.
At the beginning, you start small. I have a small favor to ask. You lower the emotional and practical weight.
When you use that phrase, you quietly tell their brain, relax. This won't be a giant burden on you.
Then you explain why, with our second phrase, using because to give a simple reason, even a gentle, everyday reason.
That tiny word lets their mind say, okay, this isn't random. There's a purpose, and I understand the context.
Next, with phrase 3, you remove pressure by saying, if you can't, or if it's not a good time, I understand.
You step back from desperation and step into respect. You show their freedom matters more than your short-term convenience.
With phrase 4, I thought of you because you're so good at, you shine a light on their strengths and identity.
You're saying, I see you. I know what you're great at, and that feels emotionally rewarding and motivating for them.
Finally, phrase 5 adds empathy to difficult systems. I understand that, but I was hoping you could help me.
You respect rules, acknowledge their reality, and then gently invite them to become your ally instead of your opponent.
Put together, these phrases move you from powerless and awkward to confident, respectful, and honestly more persuasive in English.
Vocabulary time again, but quick and natural. Today we played with empathy, reciprocity, gatekeeper, ally, reframe, and consistency.
Empathy is when you really feel someone's situation. Reciprocity is that, you helped me, I want to help you, feeling.
A gatekeeper controls access. An ally stands beside you. Reframing means seeing a situation from a different, often kinder, angle.
Consistency explains why people try to behave like the person they believe they are, especially after specific compliments.
We also used grammar patterns that matter for persuasion, opinion starters, modal verbs, and those imaginative if sentences.
Opinion starters sound like, I'd argue that, from my perspective, and in my experience, this phrase really softens the conversation.
Modal verbs show possibility and softness. You might get more help. You could sound more respectful. This should make things easier.
And second conditionals help you imagine change. If you use these phrases, you'd probably feel less helpless and more confident.
Comparatives showed up too. Phrases that are more respectful, less aggressive, more persuasive, less awkward and emotionally heavy.
All of that grammar lives inside real conversation here, not in some cold textbook box that nobody uses in real life.
Now, I want to talk directly to the listener who hates asking for help because it feels like weakness.
Maybe you grew up thinking you must handle everything alone, or you worry people will secretly judge your request.
From my perspective, asking clearly and respectfully is not weakness. It's a mature skill, especially in a second language.
I'd argue it actually shows strength because you're honest about your limits and brave enough to invite connection.
Let's imagine a future version of you, 6 months from now, using these phrases naturally at work or university.
You walk up to a colleague and say, I have a small favor to ask, and you actually feel calm.
You add, could you look at this slide because I want to make sure the data is clear.
Then, if you can't, I completely understand and you really mean it instead of secretly punishing them inside.
Maybe you say to a manager, I thought of you because you're so good at strategic decisions under pressure.
Then, I understand you're busy with reviews, but I was hoping you could help me with this decision.
That doesn't sound like begging. That sounds like a thoughtful professional, inviting another professional into a meaningful moment.
If you spoke like that more often, you'd probably feel more grounded and less terrified every time you need support.
Another second conditional for you. If you practice these phrases regularly, you'd become more comfortable hearing no sometimes too.
Because you'd know you did your part respectfully, and a no wouldn't feel like a personal rejection of your worth.
Let's create 1 or 2 shareable lines that you can screenshot or write down to keep this episode alive.
How about this? People don't just respond to what you ask. They respond to how you make them feel when you ask.
Nice one. Here's another. The right sentence at the right moment can turn a stranger into an ally, not an obstacle.
If those lines resonate with you, share them with a friend who struggles to ask for help in English.
Now a small challenge. This week, choose one real situation where you need help, even if it's something tiny.
Decide in advance which magic phrase you'll use. The small favor, the because, the easy exit, the compliment, or the empathy line.
After the conversation, take 1 quiet minute and ask yourself, did I feel a little more confident this time?
If the answer is yes, even just a tiny bit, that's progress. That's emotional and linguistic growth working together.
And if it didn't go perfectly, that's okay. Every awkward attempt is still training your communication muscles for next time.
We would love to hear your stories. Which phrase are you most excited to try first in your real life?
Maybe it's the compliment approach. Maybe it's the I understand that line for dealing with strict rules and policies.
Tell us in the comments, and if you can, write one full sentence you actually plan to use.
Also, if this episode helped you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend.
Your support doesn't just help us. It helps other learners find free, practical tools for real-world communication and confidence.
Remember our comparatives one more time. More confident, less helpless, more respectful, less pushy, more persuasive, less awkward overall.
If you moved even 5% closer to that more confident, less afraid side, that already matters, and it's worth celebrating.
From my perspective, you're already braver than you think, just by listening to an entire episode about changing your habits.
And I truly believe if you start asking with more empathy and clarity, people will see your real value more often.
So take a breath, pick one phrase, and step into your next conversation with a little more courage than yesterday.
This is Abby from English Podcast for Listening and Speaking, feeling proud of you and curious about your next brave request.
And this is Alec, cheering for you as you practice these phrases and build stronger, kinder connections in English.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to comment which phrase you'll try first. We seriously can't wait to read it.